when you're getting a reminder every single day, whether you did something or not, my hypothesis is that it's not as effective. But if you get something that uses artificial intelligence, if you forget to wear it and you get a reminder on that aspect, it's a much more meaningful reminder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr.len. And, most of my episodes are introducing or talking about a concept, a product, reviews, a marketing company, talking to an additional dentist or another dentist out there. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a product that's coming out there that's going to help make orthodontic compliance or tracking orthodontic compliance easier. I actually met this gentleman by doing some due diligence about this product from an investment perspective. I met him again at the dental festival through Elijah Desmond. And I said, you know what, I think this is a really neat product. I wanted to have him on the podcast so everybody can learn more about it because it is a new product and not many people knew about it. So I offered him an opportunity to get him on this podcast so you would be the first to hear about it. So welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Dylan Drozdowicz. Dylan has a new product called the ToothCase, which really makes tracking orthodontic compliance easier. So Dylan, thanks for joining me today. I just found out during our pre-interview that you're not very far from me. I'm in Parkland, you're in Miami. So welcome. I look forward to chatting with you for the next 35, 45 minutes, learning more about your product, letting the audience, the viewers and listeners know more about your product. So again, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Len. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your followers. So a little bit about myself. Dental was not my background, and actually I came across this product because I had ortho for the third time, and it was the first time that I had to actually pay for it out of pocket. And I was like, there's got to be a way for me to wear my retainer at night. So in doing some research, I found out about products out there that track technology and reminders. And we came up with MyToothCase, to help fix that spot. So, I just hope that other people with our product are going to be in the same position where they don't have to revert on their ortho and they get to only have treatment once and wear the retainer for life.
So to understand or to kind of further that concept, you had braces or of some sort. I don't know if you had then clear aligners at some point too, but you had braces or you had orthodontic treatments. You didn't wear your retainers, you relapsed, had to go back into it two times more. And because you went through that experience, you created a product that makes the compliance from a retainer perspective easier, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, the final retention. It's really interesting, doing more research about it, finding out that I wasn't the only one that's gone through this. I started diving in, my background's business, and before I jump into something, I do a ton of research. So I came up with the idea in December 2020, started finding technology, and then started reading, all the reports from, ClearCorrect, Invisalign, going through everything, and then, research from doctors about compliance with the final retention stage. And I found out that, most people are fairly compliant during the process, but after that first 12 months during the final retention, that's when the numbers just drastically drop. And once I saw that, I'm like, why is this? The only thing I could really think of is it's like buying a new car. When you're paying for that car, when you first purchase it, you're treating that car super nice. You're waxing it. You're getting it cleaned every week. And then the further away, once you get the car paid off, you kind of, if there's a ding there, it's okay. And you start not treating it like the investment that you really put into it. So that's the only thing I could think of on, a psychology level, why people stop wearing the retainer. And what I found out is that teeth can shift in as little as 2 to 3 days. So once you stop wearing that retainer, and then you try putting that retainer back in your mouth, it's not going to fit in. And then you're like, oh, I'm done with this. And then they keep shifting, and then you have to get the whole treatment done again. So I learned the hard way.
That's an interesting analogy you gave. It's like when you purchase something new, it's anything you purchase. You purchase new gym equipment. You purchase any new piece of technology. You're using it like mad in the beginning, and you take care of it, and then something new comes out, or you find something new you like, and you drop the other piece of technology you have, and you don't use it as often. So I agree with you 100%. Do you have the statistics that you get from ClearCorrect or Invisalign on how many people who have previous orthodontics have to go back into it or go back into it because of a retention issue?
Yeah, so I do see a study out there. It was, after the first year, only 47.8% of people are compliant with their treatment. And then there's roughly about 20% of those people end up having to get treatment done again. So, that's a large amount of people, having to get treatment. And that's not necessarily, it could be much higher than the 20% that actually need it, but they just don't go back for it. So it's a big number.
Interesting. So you didn't go into this for me. So talk about your background from an education perspective, because you obviously said your background is business. So talk to us about your background, your education and background, and because you're not in the dental side, you said. So
yeah,
so talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I went to Coastal Carolina University in
Chanticleers?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Most people just started hearing about us because the football team and the baseball team put us on the map in about 2015. So it's been an exciting time to be an alumni. But I went there for professional golf management, and then they also had a business degree that you'd get as well. So I always was working in the golf industry growing up, and I wanted to be a golf professional when I was a young kid. So chose Coastal Carolina, and I was like, if it doesn't work out in the golf, then I'll have a business degree as well. I started with a management degree and a management focus, and I was like, this is kind of something you can pick up a book and read at your own time. You don't really have to pay for class. And my hardest classes were, finance and accounting. I'm like, that's what I'm going to major. And if I'm going to pay for education, I better learn and learn something that I find relevant. So I focused on finance, wealth management, came out of school, had a hard time finding a job, especially transitioning from the golf industry. Ended up going to a small boutique finance shop, started as a part-time accountant, worked my way up, and just left a company that I helped start with two other founders. And I said, hey guys, this has been a great opportunity, but I want to focus on MyToothCase, and I don't have the time anymore to do both companies. So that's why I left the company, Apogee Capital Partners, which we're purchasing medical receivables, actually. So I got out of that, and here I am today working on ToothCase full-time.
So as they say in Shark Tank, you're all in on MyToothCase. That's what it is.
I'm all in on it, yep. So it's been a journey because it's completely different than a finance-related product. We have, not only is it the business side, but we're dealing with inventory, we're dealing with purchasing, and then we're dealing with customers. So it's really fascinating because we get to work with multiple different levels, not just valuing accounts receivable.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the actual product first, so people kind of understand a little bit more about the actual product. I know you said you don't have one to show because it's only a prototype and you didn't want to show the prototype. You're expecting ones to come in, and that's fine. But talk about the actual product for people. What does it do? How does it work? I know you said you're waiting for the final app to be developed as well. So when do you expect it to be available for release? But talk about the actual product and what it does.
Yeah, so the actual product is, it's a smart retainer case, and we designed a new case which has a sliding function. So the case opens by a sliding motion. In the front slide, it has a motion sensor chip that pairs to a Wi-Fi gateway. So the Wi-Fi gateway, what it does is allows for it to have a larger range of motion. So your phone has to be within 200 or 300 feet from the actual retainer case. So it uses artificial intelligence, and it knows that motion, what's the opening and closing of the case. So once you open the case, it sends a notification to the phone that, okay, the case has been opened. It only recognizes that behavior at certain times. So let's say you want to wear your retainer at 9 o'clock at night. It'll only recognize that behavior of the case being open and closed from 7 to 11 o'clock. Any movement outside that, it won't detect it, because that's when you're trying to just tell it that that's when I want to put in my retainer. In addition, we're trying to really gamify the experience, create a reward system, because like we were talking about with the car, if we want people to consistently use the case, we want to make it fun and we want to make it engaging. So the more consistent you are with wearing it, the more points you get. And then you get to purchase stuff through our mobile app store at a discount by converting your points into a discount. So it's really cool. The mobile application we will have done in about 2 months. And then I just finished up the final design, and we're looking to choose our injection molding manufacturer. And we can be completing it in between 3 and 4 weeks. So we're looking Q2 conservatively of 2022 to release.
And then how do dentists, and when we first spoke, you were looking at a variety of different ways to get it out for release. You were looking to go to the aligner companies. You were looking to go possibly through the dental chains. You were looking, or dental offices. You were looking possibly to go direct to consumer. There was a variety of different things you were looking at. So I think your choice was to go to the aligner companies. And I think last time we spoke, I said you were making some headway with the aligner companies. But how do dentists get involved in this? Where do you see the best way to get it out to the masses, I guess you can say, consumers?
Yeah, good question. So we decided not to go direct to consumer. We either want to go to the aligner companies or direct to dental offices. And we're going to start with direct to dental offices first to gain traction and really use as our initial stages. Just start slow and then grow bigger. But what we plan on doing with the doctors is offering a commission on the product sale to the front office or to the doctor themselves on the sale of the purchase. We want to make it as simple as possible. Have a QR code on a brochure at the office. The patient can sign or scan it. They can purchase it directly through there. And then at the end of the month, we send the commissions to the dental office, and then we ship the inventory directly to the patient. So the doctor doesn't have to pay for any inventory up front. They don't have to hold any inventory in the office. And then they also get a low incentive for telling their patients about it.
Gotcha. So let's talk about some other things. Where do you put the price on something like this? How do you explain the benefits to the patients as well? Because obviously they're the ones that are going to have to understand. And I know in my mind where I see the benefits is you avoid having to do orthodontic over again. And that's a big deal in my mind because a lot of the orthodontic cases I did, and I was, in my heyday of doing dentistry. And for those that are new to the podcast, I sold my practice October 1st of 2021. So recently. And so I'm not the owner of my practice, but over the last 15 years of ownership, I did over 500 Invisalign cases. And I would say maybe 25% of my cases were relapse cases. So I'm obviously very attuned to what this is all about. Patients who didn't wear the retainers and want to get back to the way they were prior. So other than that, how do you really go about explaining the benefits of something like this to the patients? Another thing they have to do, basically.
Yeah, so a big thing is really securing their investment that they made. For example, when you purchase a laptop from Best Buy or any store, a lot of times they'll sell insurance on the product. And typically insurance is you pay 10 to 15% of that value. So on average, Invisalign cases, correct me if I'm wrong, depending on the complexity, on average it's about $4,500.
That's fair, yeah. Uh-huh.
So, on the low end, 10% would be $450 for an insurance product. We're not insurance. We're not guaranteeing that, we're not offering that we're going to pay for their treatment if they don't wear the retainer. So we're going down a little bit lower on the price. Our price point's $110 for the consumer. But we really think that's a great investment in protecting, what they paid for, because the statistics are alarming, and there's a lot of studies out there that show how effective SMS reminders are. But we're taking SMS reminders to a whole nother level, because when you're getting a reminder every single day, whether you did something or not, my hypothesis is that it's not as effective. But if you get something that uses artificial intelligence, if you forget to wear it and you get a reminder on that aspect, it's a much more meaningful reminder. So we really think that that reminder is much more effective for the consumer. And if they're continuing to wear the retainer, they're not going to relapse and they're going to save a lot of money. I mean, 20% of people end up having to spend another $4,500. So it really pays for it in itself.
When is your suggestion to discuss this with the patients? Is it to be discussed beginning of treatment when they go into the retainer phase? What is your suggestion for that process?
I would suggest that you would talk about it in the beginning of the process, and then also offer it as a bundle. Because once you pay for something and then having to get them to pay for something more at a later point is a tough sell. So I think what's just part of the process when you go through the treatment, be upfront with them, be like, hey, a lot of people do relapse on the treatment. We've seen it. There's studies out there. We're bundling this into the package to make sure that you're not one of those statistics. So if you are a doctor that bundles it with all the patients, we are going to give a pricing discount on that as well.
So it's interesting, one of the things I teach is case acceptance. And I teach dentists how to get patients to say yes. And I teach financing and stuff like that. And in my office, we present our fees and we tell them Invisalign's $4,500. It includes the aligners, all the refinements, everything's included. Your fee for retainers is $500 at the end. So the total cost is $5,000. If you want to pay the $4,500 up front, you can. The $500 can be paid at the end. They can include it and pay $5,000 instead of the $4,500. So it's paid all up front. A lot of people choose to pay the $500 at the end, and we sign off on that. So they know the $4,500 was paid. They still owe $500 at the end. And now they sign something that says they owe the $500. There are so many people because, the average Invisalign case takes 12 to 18 months, but usually there are so many people who forget that they still owe the $500 at the end, and we show them the signature that says that they didn't pay the $500. So that's why it needs to be very clear that if I tell them at the beginning about this, they may not even remember that we even offered it to them then. So it's very interesting. And that's why I said, how often do you remind them about this option if they don't do it at the beginning? That's why I'm saying that, because they may not even remember that it was an option, 18 months prior for this if they didn't buy it then.
Yeah, and what I would say is, try to offer it on the front end. Like you're saying, try to collect as much on the front because they forget, 12 to 18 months later, they forget about it. But what I would say is if they don't purchase it on the front side, remind them on the back end, be like, hey, you just went through, a somewhat painful process, a long process of correcting your teeth. You want to make sure that you secure it, for additional $110. And we're also leaving it up to the doctor's office. If they want to upcharge, they're more than welcome to. We're not promoting our price anywhere on our website. So if the doctor wants to make an additional amount on it, they can bundle it. Our price is $110. We think that's a really reasonable price. But we leave it up to each office to handle it in a different manner, what they think is best.
If someone is willing to purchase in quantities, is there a discount on those two, or that's the price no matter how many you purchase?
We would do a volume discount on something like that. Yeah, we would certainly entertain it. And
then and I think we discussed this when we first spoke, but I don't remember what you had said. Is there an ability to put the office logo or the office information on the actual toothcase, or no?
We do not have that option yet. That is something that we will discuss for future. If they're a big volume purchaser, yeah, absolutely, we would do that. But if they're doing 1 to 2 cases per month,
it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly. But if they're purchasing a large amount, absolutely, yeah.
Gotcha. So anything else? And I know we've talked a lot about the product side of things, which I think is really important because, again, it's a product that many people who are going to be listening to this or watching this probably haven't heard of. So that's why I wanted to make sure they knew what we were talking about as a new product on the market or soon to be released on the market. Is there anything else you wanted to let them know about the product itself?
Yeah, one final thing. I would say it's not really for the actual treatment process because you're supposed to be wearing it 22 to 23 hours a day. Our case is a little bit bigger than a traditional case. So it's more for the final retention and to be really used at home. It's not supposed to be traveled with and so forth. It's really for the final retention. And we designed it that way because that's the biggest issue is the final retention. So if it's one thing where if you do bundle it up front, we can give the option of sending the patient the case at the end of treatment so they don't lose it because it's an expensive case. It has technology in it that I just want to be fully transparent there with it.
That makes sense. Now, let's go ahead and switch gears a little bit. As many of you know, I like to have a little different section on my podcast. I have a little app on the phone called Pod Decks, and there's all these decks of cards that I offer the guests to basically have a little fun section on. Dylan chose a new deck that I haven't done before called College Life, and we found out he went to Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, and so he chose a deck called College Life. So these are all decks that have to do with college. So I'm going to ask him a number of questions here that relate to him being in college. So you graduated when, Dylan?
I graduated in 2015.
2015. So you're out of school 6 years, basically.
Correct. Yeah.
I feel old. So I graduated school in 1991. So I had my 30-year reunion this year. So a long time ago. All right. So the first question, did you belong to any clubs while you were in college?
Yes, I did. It would be the PGM program, Professional Golf Management.
Okay. How was your college experience different from what you were expecting?
I was expecting more of the party lifestyle from I'm drawing a blank on the movie.
Animal House?
Animal House. Thank you for jumping in. I was expecting more of that, but it was definitely not. I spent most of my time studying and then also working full time throughout school.
So I actually went to the biggest party school in the world, in the country, Tulane in New Orleans. So, and I was not the party animal, but I went to a party school. So that was interesting there. How many of your college friends are you still friends with?
Not many. Actually, I just went back up for my birthday. I was surprised for my 30th birthday. I went to a Coastal game last week, and I had a few people surprise me there, but I would say under 5.
Yeah, thank God for Facebook. I only speak to a couple people after 30 years, but thank God for Facebook because that's how I keep in touch with them.
Yeah.
Did your college campus have defined borders, or was it mixed in throughout the city?
So we're confined between 501 and 544, two major roads going from the middle of the state to the beach, and then the campus it was just smack dab in the middle of them.
Gotcha. Is there anything you would do differently if you could redo your college experience?
I probably would have worked a little less. I want to work quite full time, and I would have enjoyed more of the football games, the baseball games, and some of that experience. Not necessarily the partying, but just enjoying the campus in general, because it's a really, truly beautiful campus that they have.
Gotcha. Did you accidentally ever sleep through an important test?
I did not. I was, I'm a morning person, especially in school. When I was in school, I always woke up super early, and I'd be the person that would be there 15 minutes before the test started.
Hey, that's good. Did you work part-time during school, and what did you do?
Yes, I worked actually. I ended up working full-time because I was from Wisconsin originally. I found a little loophole that you could get in-state tuition if you worked full-time. So I worked full-time to get South Carolina residency. And because I was like, I don't want to graduate with student loans. So I ended up working full-time throughout school. And it took me an extra semester to do it. But it was nice not having that big student loan debt hanging over me.
Gotcha. Did any of your family members attend the same school?
They did not. We all went to different schools across the country. So Me being the youngest, at one point we were spread out through the country in Utah, Florida, South Carolina, and Wisconsin. So we're all over the country for a little bit.
And last question, do you still wear some of your swag representing your school?
I do, only on game day though.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking part in that. That was fun. I'd never done that one before, but for someone who definitely is, for 30 years later, for me, that would be hard to answer. But for someone who's out for 6 years, that actually would be pretty cool. Let's go back to talking about this as we kind of wrap it up here. So you expect it to be out, you said Q2, you think available?
Yeah, Q2, exactly.
Okay. So how do people find out more information about this? Obviously, it's not ready for release yet. So is there a way for people to find out information when it is available? What's the best way for them to find that out? If they're interested in more information about the product, how do they get that information?
Yeah, so right now that's a great point because we're trying to gauge how much demand we'll have. You can go to www.mytoothcase.com, and then there's a contact form. So just submit that you're interested in the product, pricing, and then we'll set up a call and talk, how much volume, so we can get all of our estimates forecasted.
Gotcha. And again, you expect on a good timeline Q2 of 2022 release.
Correct. Yeah, end of Q2.
End of Q2, so summer of 2022.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. So, Dylan, I appreciate you sharing information about your new product that is set to be released in 2022. For the viewers and listeners, I hope you enjoyed learning more about this new product. I think it will definitely have some users in the industry. Obviously, as he mentioned, there are a lot of people who do relapse, and they only wish they had something like this, especially the millennials who like technology and are on their phone all the time. So I think there's definitely a market for this. If you do want information, please reach out to, by the way, Dylan, how can people get in touch with you if they want to speak to you about things?
Yeah, so what I would say is recommend, they can call my cell phone, which is, 414-861-4756. And I'm very responsive on that, or they can email through the website, either way. But okay. I'm very responsive all day through both of those.
There you go. You got his email and you got his website.
Personal number.
Yeah, sorry. You got his cell phone number. Sorry. His cell phone, and you got his website. So reach out to Dylan if you have any further questions about the product. So Dylan, thank you for joining me. Guys, if you do have interest in this product, please reach out to Dylan. Mention you heard about the product on the Raving Patients podcast. I think it will definitely have some interest. So Dylan, thank you for joining me. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please listen for more episodes. We come out weekly at Friday weekly at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Both audio and video versions will be released to all the podcasting networks, YouTube, etc. And as I always like to say at the end of these episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Until the next episode, Dylan, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you for having me.